Reverend Vivian.
Yes.
Finally good to sit down and chat with you.
Same, my brother.
93 years. You've seen a heck of a whole lot in 93 years.
Yeah.
Did you think we would be where we are now with the madness of Donald Trump sitting in the White House, with all that you've seen, all that you've gone through, all that you fought for?
Not with, let's put it this way, is that given the fact that we produced Martin King and then the president, I didn't have any idea that we would ever have Trump anywhere in the United States, right? Is that, because he is working together with other people that we hardly knew and had forgotten, who is now trying to bring back the racism of yesterday. And when you think about somebody even thinking about bringing it back, well, not thinking about it, but trying hard to do it, and working through a president, even after we had a president, right? Didn't expect any of that. And now we've got the battle of struggling to make certain that he does not have an effect.
But I often tell people that, though, if you look at the history of America, black success has always been followed by white backlash.
Yeah, oh yeah, white backlash, but not this effective. See, this is what they've been at that. I mean, and I knew that no matter what you do, they weren't even trying to bring back the Klan type stuff because they thought they had lost the battle, right? And we thought they had lost the battle, but then what we know was we got a person in the White House and we have to put up with that and go back to doing it again. We hope things will fall our direction.
But do you believe that this moment, though, is a wake-up call for what I call the post-civil rights movement generation, those born 68 and beyond, for them to understand that parents may have wanted to keep a lot of this stuff away, but they got to put some skin in this game as well?
Yeah, in fact, that the struggle is never won, completely won. And we rested too long to expect it to have not to happen. All right, and I say that for many of our older persons as well as our younger ones, right? Is that you never have to stop fighting the struggle. In fact, until you're completely in charge, you're not in charge at all. And we have to know that and see that and make each other aware of it, even when it seems like that we have won all the battles, right? We still have to make our people and our young people even quite aware that the struggle is never over. That's one thing I like about Jews. Jews never think the struggle is over.
When did you know that you were going to be committing your life to black liberation, black freedom, that struggle? Was there a moment where you knew exactly?
No, there wasn't a moment, but there was the reality of it came from my grandmother, all right? And then when I saw it happening and going to a white school in the North, I realized that, oh, they loved me, but they didn't love black folk. They got a street named after me, but not, but to accept black people totally as a truly full human being, it's another thing.
How old were you?
About sixth grade.
And then from that point on, as you began to see how America viewed African Americans, viewed black folks.
Well, I already knew that. See, my grandmother had a library, and that is what I read all the time, right? And and she was always concerned about who we are and what we must do. And as a result of that, I thought that once we had a president, we wouldn't have to worry. In fact, I was surprised that we had got a president as soon as we did. I did not think we would get it at all, really. And but I knew that if we did, that would be that they were really completely accepting, and that they would see us as worthy of being in charge of any and everything.
But they still didn't.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. And
So even though Obama becomes president, you still had the folks who questioned black intellect, who questioned everything.
And they're now in power. They started fighting back and allowing those that had thought that they had completely lost. They nevertheless started back. See, we have to understand that if Jews have to worry about it for a couple thousand years, to right now, is that we just have to consider that it will take us longer than we thought.
Reverend Jim Lawson said that. He said, look, if you had nearly 400 years of an oppressive system, it might take that long to end that system.
Well, it may even take longer than that. Jim's idea is right. However, time's a funny thing.
Do you think it's because, as I often make the case, that race is so deeply embedded in the DNA of America that it's fool's folly to think you passed a few laws, okay, fine, you can live here, you can eat here, then we're all good. I mean, it is, and I often say that there are a lot of whites, it is so deeply embedded, they don't even realize even their own views on it because it is so ingrained in the DNA of America.
Very true. That's what I mean. Is that we never can not see it, and never take it for granted that you are free. You always struggle for your real, total freedom, right? In a country that's had, within any country that's had slavery, and you are the slave.
When you reflect back to been out there fighting. Have you ever thought about where your fearlessness came from?
Yeah. In fact, actually, first grade was a very, very important day for me. It was truly, it was great experience. Now, it takes me all day to say this, so I'm going to cut it down. But my mother, just always prettied me up, you know. She loved that because we were going to this white school, and so we got to look good and all that stuff, right? First grade. And I was going out the back door of the school, and a little gang had gotten together, run by a little black boy who was dumb as they come, and so the point is that I would run out the back door, and while they were going out the front door, right? And the railroad track was back there somewhere, and I would take the railroad track to where I could hit the concrete and go on home, because I was only 2 blocks from school, and I'd beat him. Well, I had to stay after school for a couple minutes for something, and I went back in and ran back to the sand pile at the back, and looked both directions, and they rose up around me. And Theodore Derrick was the boy's name. Well, I remember all the names. And this is first grade, and I'm 93. But I remember all of them because it was a very, very important experience, mm-hmm. right? So he sent somebody in to fight me. Well, I beat that boy. And I'm not supposed to be able to fight at all because my grandmother had taught me Christianity. So they sent another boy in for me, and I beat him. I beat him badly, and I remember clearly, I looked down at him in this sand, right? And there was great sand pile, professional sand pile back there. And I looked down at him, and I knew that so I would better. So I looked at Theodore Derrick and said, "Come on in." Come on in the circle, and he decided not to, and he went home, right, with all his little gang.
So the bully was afraid to fight you.
That's exactly right, and this is first grade, all right. This is first grade, but they was always trying to defeat somebody, and because of their own personal. Ignorance, really.
So for you staring them down.
Yeah.
So when you stared down Jim Clark and Bull Connor, you were just thinking back to first grade.
Well, I wasn't thinking back to it, but I like the idea.
You see it? I dealt with the bully then. I deal with the bully now.
In fact, and that was because I kept doing that all the way through school until when I was in 4th grade, I was in charge of the school, all right? But I didn't hurt anybody. I made certain that nobody fought kids who were weaker or less able than they were, right? And in fact, they had to fight me if they fought anybody that was smaller or in a grade under them, right? So by the time we were in 6th grade, which was, the school was going to be out, right? The 6th grade would make it over. By that time, I made clear that to everybody, except 2 kids, I know them too, right? Is that if they jumped on anybody, I would jump on them, right? And the other kid that was capable at the 4th grade level was a white boy named what's his name? I can see him now. He had white hair, and he was dumb as Theodore Derrick, right? And in fact, in the 3rd grade, the teacher made me teach them.
And they still pay no attention.
Yeah, well, see, that's it. They tried. But if you don't have it, you don't have it, right? And so, given that, is that in 6th grade, though, right, is that I made certain that that they would make a promise that we would. Our school was the fighting school, right? Mm-hmm. That we would not fight anymore, period. And it worked. I mean, they said.
So you go from a school where you're not fighting to you having to fight for basic freedom.
Precisely, and happened to be ready for it. Won it, right? But I didn't want to be it, right? In fact, I'm wasting your time, but let me give it to you. Is that I thought about it and decided that when I fought that. When I won that 2nd battle, I made friends with the guy that big Frank. Frank, I'd hit him and he'd hit me. We would go down and back and forth, right? And so when we finished it, we decided that we didn't need to fight each other. So he joined me. And we wouldn't allow anybody to beat up on anybody else, all right? And give you another piece of it. The war was over not only for little boys fighting, but what it was over. The war itself that was going on started. And, it sounds strange, but it started, and everybody had a job because once the war started, there was a job. Never forgot that, and life changed for everybody.
So as you explain that story,
Yeah.
in the fight for black freedom,
Yeah.
does America replace those schoolyard bullies. That is, America was the country picking on the little people
Precisely.
and establishing their dominance over them.
Precisely. And and when I got to junior high, see, those kids, the dumber ones, and I shouldn't call them, but I got to, is that they had jobs now. All right, their parents had jobs now. It made the difference, is that so they could keep this promise that they made to me, right? That they could keep it because they weren't even going to school, all right? They had money, they had a job, and this is just sixth grade, right? But I never had a fight or since then, right? Is that we ended up in junior high with we ended up with in junior high with a system that you went to first grade, you either they put you in a grade, right, by ability. So all of us that had ability were in that class, right? And so, but I had friends all down the school, right? And so I thought I would just try to not make the grade one time, right? And I tried not to make it, and I didn't make it. But man, when I got down, I dropped down the grade, is that it was so bad because the kids just didn't have it. Kids that were my friends, right, wanted to be nice and good and acceptable, but they couldn't. And I felt badly. So at the end of the 6 weeks, I went back upstairs, and I've been back upstairs since, right?
The thing that is interesting to me is when we look at some of these old newsreels.
Yeah.
And there's the famous one where the sheriff is on the steps, and you're trying to go in, register to vote, and takes a punch at you, knocks you back, and you don't stop talking, you don't stop yelling, you don't, you didn't flinch. It was as if you can keep hitting me, but I'm not backing up.
That's precisely right, and don't intend to yet. All right, there is no reason at 90 if I've held my ground this long that I don't keep it until I die, right? And that's most important to me is how do we reach the freedom mark? Not how do we get rid of something, how do we gain more and more, right? Every time I see somebody black get a job, I'm happy. Every time I see any kid make it who couldn't make it before, that's my happiness. That kind of experience makes me thankful, and I want to see more of it instead of less of it, right?
When we think back to just the daily indignities, the daily treatment. I don't think anybody who didn't endure it really understands what that was like.
Precisely.
You can read a movie, you can watch a movie, you can read a book, you can but just every single day, Jim Crow envelops your entire life.
And you know that it's going to. See, that's what makes it difficult.
Wake
truly.
up, go to bed.
That's it. And what this is see, I always knew white schools, right? When I found out about black schools at the college level, that's what I really wanted, right? But the University of Chicago was a better shot for me, and so because I knew what was going on there, because I'd been north all the time, right? So I forgot the idea. I was just going to. I forgot the fact that I wanted to make certain that that I stayed at that level again. You see what I mean? It's to give it, as you were talking about it, right? And so I tried to maintain it at another level. If I had been south, I would have been at Morehouse. All right, that would have been it. And my children, and the worst thing that ever happened to my oldest son was the fact that he didn't go to Morehouse. My youngest son did go, and it was the best experience of his life. All right, and it's. I just wished it could have happened for everyone.
The fight for freedom.
Yeah.
I often say the reason I think it was so amazing because you really just had ordinary people
Right.
who had extraordinary faith, extraordinary courage to say enough.
Yeah. But see, what happened when that's enough, right? As you say, right? What happened is they decided, because they gained the stuff it takes to run up against whatever the problem is, and not bend at all, right? And whatever the cost, let's pay it. But let's not bend before it, right? And read Langston Hughes, but leave that out. I was going to take you somewhere else.
When I think about those ordinary people doing extraordinary things, so I'm reading this book, and remember we talked previously about this. So you're all in St. Augustine, and you're trying to desegregate the beaches, and all this sort of thing is happening, and y'all are under these fierce attacks. And y'all on the beach, you can't swim.
That's right.
And this person's trying to drown you.
Yeah.
And you tell me, here you are with your head underwater.
Yeah.
And you start laughing.
That's right. And I say, this is it. Because I thought at that point, this guy had me underwater. They swim every day. And I said, this is it. And I laughed, right? Because I knew that that was it, that I was going to lose this one. But so, if you lose it, you lose it, Doc. If you win it, you win it. All right. And I have every intention of winning them all.
And then someone jumped on his back, and you realized that it was a cop that was on your back. It was so here you are, a cop was trying to drown you.
Well, no, he wasn't trying to drown me. He was really trying to pull the other guy off of me. Right?
Because everybody's trying to kill all y'all
yeah, that's
in
right.
Florida.
Yeah, but they were on my back, right? But this policeman really tried to get rid of the white guy on my back. He really did.
And so then you're standing there, so you got the white guy on your
I'm
back.
not standing there. I'm stretched out underwater.
So then the cop, so he pulls the guy off of you.
Yeah.
And then you come out of the water. And so now it's you, drenched,
Yeah.
white guy, and the cop. And then you trying to figure out who's going to jail.
No. Well, see, the point being is that and you didn't have time to think about it. You just did it, right? So when the policeman grabbed me, I said, I didn't, and whatever I said, right? But the point is, I definitely let him know that I had no business being the one that's going to jail, right? And that this guy was, right? And this guy was looking at this policeman too. The guy that was on my back was looking at policeman too. We both were looking at the policeman, and the policeman. And when I told the policeman, you had no business, et cetera, et cetera, he blinked, and I can see him blinking now, and he looked back because he had never arrested white guys before when it came to a choice between a black and a white fellow.
Did y'all often, the folks fighting, after it happened, did y'all often go back to the hotel room or you're in the car and literally share these wild stories, essentially how close all of y'all came to death?
Not really. It's that we just know that we were, and there were occasions where that you didn't know whether you were going to. It's just like with the policeman. The guy wanted to shoot me, really, right? But I was up in his face, right? Because as soon as you give way, you can forget. And not only that, I was too angry to give way. I mean, who do you think you are, right? Kind of thing, right? It wasn't going to be. That's right. And if you'd known my mother, if you'd known my grandmother, all right, you would understand exactly what I mean.
Were there moments where you said, you know what, I'm tired. I just want to go back up north and just get me a nice job. Y'all can have this.
No. Just that simple. No. I've always been happy when I'm in the position that can bring a victory. Because any victory for some of us is a victory for all of us. And you can feel my feeling. That's all right. Is that because that's it. Nobody has a right to mess over somebody else. All right. Just didn't. That gets us back to was something I left out, but I left it out on purpose because it was taking up time. But this, I went back to school that second day, and in first grade, Merger school that second day, and this kid looked at me as though, "Oh, I'm afraid of you," and I said, "Who are you looking at?" And boy, he shook, and I realized how wrong I was. You don't scare people. You don't mess over people at all, right? Regardless of situation, right? You may get them off your back, but you don't mess with them. They're just as human as you are.
Who was your closest friend in the movement as you all are traveling around the country, as you are going through all these southern towns, as you are away from home? Who were you closest to?
It was different in different towns. I'm sorry. It was different according to the situation, and but the character of things didn't change.
How would you describe being a part of SCLC when King is kicked out of the National Baptist Convention USA? They start the Progressive Baptist Convention. You have this ministerial organization that, well, moral leadership is the basis
Of SCLC.
Not NAACP and civil rights, not National Urban League and economics, but a moral basis.
I see them both as moral basis. You see, is that one happens to be legal, and the other one happens to be a spiritual base, but they're both spiritual. See, that's the way I really see it, is that they're both spiritual. That nobody's got any right to mess over anybody else, regardless of their denomination or that kind of thing.
When you reflect on those days, when you think about just the slow, just day after day after day after day, did you also gain courage by seeing people who had nothing, who had no education, who were saying, I'm standing by your side?
Not really. Is that they were always there. I mean, we were all there, right? Is that as long as you're in a struggle for freedom and justice and decency, there will always be some people with you, and I believe, and it doesn't make any difference if I'm going to go to jail for it, then I'm going to jail for it. Is that but I know I'm right, and they know I'm right. And they can mess over me because they got the position to do it. But somehow or other, it just works this way, Doc. I don't, I didn't learn it quick. I didn't say, well, no, this is what I must do.
When did you first cross paths with Dr. King?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Is that I was writing an article on him. I was a journalist.
Right.
I was writing an article on him. I had, he came to Fisk to get a medal.
So you were working in Nashville?
Yeah.
Working in, where were you
Nashville.
working?
Yeah, in Nashville.
Black newspaper, or
Yeah,
where were you working?
Oh, no, I was at the Sunday School Publishing Board of the National Baptist Convention.
Okay.
And we were the largest thing out there.
So he's coming to Nashville getting an award, and you're assigned to do a story on him?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the point is and why I had went through that twice is because they did not, my people at the publishing house, they were afraid, and their fear was so great that I had to always watch it, all right? And, but nevertheless, I made it all work.
So when did you decide to leave your role as a journalist, working for the board there, to commit yourself full-time to civil rights?
Well, as it was the chance to do it. The point is, we did it because we could. And the point is, the only reason you were a journalist, right, is because that was the closest thing to struggling and fighting back and changing the atmosphere, right? That was the only way that I could do it. Everybody did that. Every teacher did that, right? But different results. But in ours, we could struggle and thorn. That's what you do, and so you know what I'm talking about, right? Is that and that's exactly what a journalist was about. If you were black and a journalist, how did you create freedom?
When you're sitting in these meetings, this is the thing that I believe is the most underappreciated part of the civil rights movement. The strategy, the vision. So many people, you talk to folks and they react to the speeches, they react to the marches, they react to the public demonstrations. But what has always fascinated me, all the behind the scenes things, the mediations, the fights and the battles, and should we go here, should we go here? And so as somebody who was a part of that, who was sitting in those rooms, describe what that was like to experience that.
Well, the point being is that you knew why you were there. You knew. I mean, maybe I've got your attempt to reach me. Maybe I didn't get it. You get my point? But the movement drove itself. See what I mean? You didn't spend all that time trying to find out where should we go now? What should we do? Right? You knew it.
So it was. So what you're saying is, it was things were moving and progressing that fast.
That's exactly right.
Coming out of Montgomery bus boycott, 381 days, and all of a sudden it's just one after another. Then of course forced to the North Carolina A&T, and then lunch counter, then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. That it was this constant state of motion.
Yeah. Now, because you had several groups. See, and it was, but it was, once the movement started, it was going. Nothing could stop it because we had no fear. See, you were going to meet it regardless of what it was, right? I stayed in jail one time for a week when nobody else was in jail. I mean, the point is that why? Because I was hoping that we'd get something done that we didn't think about, all right? But it didn't happen that way. But we all had, in fact, it ended with, not ended, but we all had little groups. Hosea had a group, I had a group, Jesse ended up with a group, but Jesse wasn't, I brought Jesse in the movement, all right, as, because he was, he thought he was going to play football, and then didn't, but he was good at a course that he was in, and his teachers thought he was real good, and Samson, all right, Samson knew Jesse.
Al Sampson.
Yeah, Al Sampson, and so and
Now Reverend Al Sampson.
Yeah, and he knew me, and so he said to me, he says that Jesse has a teacher that is good. I didn't know who Jesse was, but he has a teacher that thinks he's good and gives him good grades in organizing, and so you know, he says we need to get him in the movement, right? And so I went over to their apartment at the University of Chicago. I went over to their apartment, and Jesse was understandable. He wanted to be a part of something, right? Mm-hmm. And so he came in, but his wife, on the other hand, was just going to float with him, right? But my wife met her, and they became friends.
So that paved the way. That made it a lot easier.
Yeah, that made it a lot easier all the way around. And she was more fun because, man, she almost would run over a car if it got in her way. I know this is not in the thing where you'll take it out, but the point being is that and they became good friends, and they were always together, right? But it was just that was in Chicago. But anyway, that's just side stuff.
When you we read these stories, read these stories about the depression Dr. King would be under. The heavy pressure, the burden, especially as we go beyond 65, and then 66 and 67.
You say, 65, 66.
And so, how did y'all deal with just all of that? What was your release valve? Was it music? Was it laughter? Was it just a camaraderie? Because you're under this constant state.
It's kind of who it was. Martin was an intellectual. I mean, and that's how he handled things, right?
Even though Ambassador Young said he had a wicked sense of humor.
Huh? A wicked sense of humor. Well, he had a sense of humor. And he had more than that. See, the point being is because he was such an intellectual, is that nothing really got in his way. All right? He knew what he wanted to do, had already figured it out, been at the universities, and we figured it all out. He knew what he had to do, right? So that he really he had a hard time dealing with, without bringing it up, had a hard time dealing with some of the guys that Jose had brought up, for instance, right? They were just, they were not necessarily your choice.
Not necessarily intellectual types. When he gave the speech at Riverside Church,
Yeah,
James Bevel, Diane Nash were pushing him to take a much harder stance against the Vietnam War. Where were you on that?
I'm always against war, but is that the moment that you do that, right? Is what else is there that you have to do?
So when he made that decision, were you one of the voices that said, Doc, what are you doing?
No, I never said no. Is that a movement to me is so much a part of the essence of a group that you don't have to tell a story. Hosea was a problem. Just not just because Hosea would go to what's Martin's, what's his name? What's who was second man in charge? Abernathy. And he couldn't have his way in the group. He would try to run to Hosea. But we knew when to cut him off and when not to, right? Because Ab knew when to cut him off, and so did Martin. And so there was a different time sometimes, but they always, he had a hard time getting his way by that way, right?
King goes to Memphis.
Yeah.
He's in Memphis.
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you there with him? Or
No.
are you somewhere else?
No, I was in Chicago. When he went to Memphis, I was in Chicago.
And he often still communicated via phone with all of his different lieutenants in different places.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we did, but not necessarily in all working on the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because at this point, you had different folks who were doing different things at different parts of the country.
Right.
So at 6:01 p.m. on April 4th, where are you?
I don't know. 6:01.
p.m. on April 4th, 1968.
Oh, you mean when Martin was shot?
Were you in Chicago?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I was. When he was shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, and I was when I was coming back to our apartment, and and they kept saying on the radio, Martin King is shot, and then finally they said, he is dead, right? And I knew right off the bat that he was dead, right? And before they even said it, because they wanted the public to, a little at a time. And I was on the other side of the city, and that's a long ways. And by the time I got to the house, they had announced, and so I remember that mid-level you had what did they call it? Some sort of level house. And it had two sets of stairs, and you went up one set of stairs to the bedrooms, and you went to other set of steps for the rest of the house, right? And when I came in, started up the stairs, and the wife was in the living room, so she said, "Are you going?" And I said, "Yes," and kept moving, right? And my wife knew that I was going because she asked me, and I told her, what's his name?
So she asked you this question. Here you have the news of Dr. King being dead.
Yeah.
And your immediate reaction is, we keep moving.
That's right, because and do it together, because now you have something quite. You have to be together to react to this. The Martin, you have to. It's had to be.
But did his death change everything?
No, see, no. In fact, we kept going as much as we could, right? And we, in fact, I remember a fellow that was working with the Kennedys, and he and I were at the office, and we were going to try to raise money for the continuation of the movement, right? Which we did, but we didn't raise a lot of money, but we were still at it, right? And this was what was going to our talk to the rest of the group, right? What are you going to do, right? Because that's it. They didn't do much of anything really. Everybody was distraught. I and the fellow from that worked with the Kennedys, we were not.
So you're saying that in this aftermath, so many folks who were around him were just in this different state. And so here you have this huge figure who's now dead. And it's interesting you're saying that, because what Reverend Lawson told me was the exact same thing. It was all about the work. He said he did not really grieve until it was July or August.
Yeah. In fact, the point being is, I don't remember grieving at all. This was what you always expected, all right? But you knew also that wasn't going to end the struggle. And it's the struggle that you were concerned about. And the struggle that Martin was concerned about. It was, that's what it was all about, right? Is that it wasn't about, well, Martin is dead, and so let's go home. And that's nonsense. Is that you would work harder because you didn't have a Martin King. He was now not only dead, but he was to also mourning. We were also mourning, as far as I was concerned. The next day, when Coretta came out, and the mayor got a plane for him to go up and go. I was there the next morning too, right? And when remember, he was shot, of course, and and there was the story among us that they had that Martin, not only was Martin dead, but that the fellow that shot him was right across the way, right? And so I went over and got through the door and to see how close it was, and so and I got down on my knees at the window and so forth, stuff like that, because we wanted to know as much as we could know, but we knew that everything was going to change, and it did, and it's just like, and what else changed was the new movement, right? Right now, the movement we got of the kids, right?
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, that's right. Is that because they've got that, but now look, they learned something quickly that we had already known, that it was also time to die. I mean, you knew that you were, if you were going to have to die, you knew you were going to die, right? You did, but the kids, the young guys now, the young people now, I say kids, but girls and boys, they really didn't get it. But you know who did get it? The guy that was their leader at the university, their president of the organization, and he knew something that the rest of them had never got. They were not ready for a movement. What I mean by that is, for a movement, you got to be ready to die. All right? And the point is, if you are not, is that you can be bluffed. And that's what was happening to most of the kids at the university and that's this movement, right? But the young guy that really gave it its name, right? He had done. He was going to starve himself, right? What he had learned was that if you're not ready to die, you can't have a movement. I've been with those kids since in Florida once in another situation, but they weren't ready to go all the way for a movement, right? But the young guy that was head of it, he understood.
20, 30, 40 years from now, it's going to be a kid, elementary school, junior high school, doesn't matter. They're going to be looking at some films, a DVD, a documentary, looking at some photos. They're going to be reading something. And they're going to
You're all right, keep going.
They're going to come across Reverend C.T. Vivian.
Yeah.
They're going to see a newsreel. They're going to see you getting punched and you coming right back. They're going to see all of that. What do you want that student to know about you when they see that?
It doesn't matter. What I want them to know is what they're going to have to do. Right? I don't care what they think about me. Is that the point being is that they've had to learn what they're going to have to do. Right? If they learn what they have to do, then that's the name of the story, and whether 10 of them do and 10 of them don't, it doesn't matter to me. They don't all have to do anything, right? And because they didn't in the first place, because you just don't, right? And you're not going to have everybody. It's a changed setup. You've done your struggle, really. You see what I mean? And and if they learn what you would like for them to learn, fine. But the point is, you kept the struggle going as long as you could, right? And you hope that they learn, right? And gained the stuff it takes to really be. See, and I don't even like saying stuff it takes. And it sounds like, you know.
I'm going to throw a few names out. This will be the last part here.
Okay.
Short answers. Just going to throw a name out. See what you have to say when I throw a name out.
You're a good guy.
First name I will bring up, Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. Harry has always been a support and a help for not only the movement, but for other things as well, right? And I've liked him ever since I knew anything about him, really. And I've got a picture down there. I know it's the thing is that so I know he's always going to help out any time it goes. And he was a real support service to Martin.
Diane Nash.
Diane Nash. Oh, Diane is always going to. Diane is the one person, the only woman we had that you really, and everybody made her their leader, right? And Diane's really something else.
Ella Baker.
Oh, Ella Baker was a natural. Ella, and when that car broke down and hurt her, it's not that it hurt her, but that it put her out of the real action, right? That like she was used to, right? Ella suffered from. She was always a person that was going to speak up and always going to move forward.
John Lewis.
John, listen, is that the thing I always said is that John was, see, I remember we were in seminary together, right? And John never really seemed to be as great as he is, but he is and was and always will be.
Bob Moses.
And he has the integrity. Oh, I think, actually, I didn't spend much time with him, but I think of him as the smartest guy we had. And had the kind of stuff it takes. All right, and in fact, I didn't even know he was around for a while. It's but he was in Mississippi, see, and it was a while before most of us got out of in fact, that's something I want to say, is that we owe Alabama more than we owe anybody anything. Is that those states gave us, every one of them gave us something, right? I mean, they broke ground for us, all right? And I don't think that you can write anything about movement without every one of those states, Montgomery right on through Selma.
Right? Jesse Jackson Sr.
Jesse is, I think that Jesse never understood nonviolence, but he never stopped fighting either. He was, but now when you say fight, you think, oh boy, he's a fighter. No, he's not that kind of fighter. He was like a football player, and but he never stopped moving forward, and he's done a job. I was with him last month, right? And I was surprised that and Jesse's all right.
Clarence Jones.
Clarence Jones. Clarence Jones. Who's Clarence Jones?
King's attorney.
Huh?
MLK's attorney.
Who's the attorney?
Dr. King's attorney, Clarence Jones.
Oh, Clarence Jones.
One of his.
California.
Yep. The legal guy.
Now California.
Yeah.
But I was going to show you something that I got from him. Where is it? he's. I just was with him a few months ago. He was in town, right? And he's the legal mind, and I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him at all, really, but he's always to be highly respected and listened to.
Merle Evers Williams.
I never knew her until late. She was head of the NAACP by the time I really knew her, because the NAACP and our groups were kind of really separate, right? And as far as I was concerned, they were too legal for me. See what I mean?
You wanted more fight.
Yeah, I mean, the point being is that I want to make certain that they would never tell me that no lawyer could tell me, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Oh, yes, I can.
Reverend C.T. Vivian?
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm so glad that you're here. I don't know how we took up this much time, but because I was sitting there thinking, I was sitting while I was waiting, I was sitting there thinking, well, we got to take in this and take in this and take in that. I don't know how we're going to get all this in.
I know how to cover it all.
You did, Doc.
I know how to cover it all.
And this is why I kept saying to you, I kept smiling and looking at you and saying, yeah, and going, because you were asking the questions, and you were asking the questions that were real.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah, that's right, Doc.
I appreciate it. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.